make that amendment?
I'll make that.
And I'll second.
And we have a motion on Mr. Williams accepting the motion for the budget, and second by Mr. Ray.
Can I make a substitute motion, or is it too late to do it? I can or I can't?
You can right now. Is that
I can.
right?
I can.
Yes.
I would like to make a substitute motion that we approve this budget, but with a 0 tax rate.
Okay, we have a
And I'd
motion.
like to second Alexa's budget.
Motion on the floor to set the budget with 0 tax rate by Ms. Flowers, and the second by Ms. Strickland. And we'll need to have our discussion on, open for discussion on vote.
Right. You have a second on vote. Discussion should be held in order and call for a vote.
In order,
Which one do you do first?
since we'll vote on.
No, the first one.
Oh, then it's not a substitute.
That's fine, that's fine.
All right,
Okay,
Council.
we'll,
Thank you.
We will, all right, there's open discussion on the Williams motion. Okay, we have no discussion, okay, we'll open discussion on the Flowers motion. Okay, yeah, you, Rebecca, you have, or anybody have anything to say?
I just don't understand why you think it's impossible to do this.
We can do this without going into the principal. We can do the reserves. We can do this on pretty much interest along with the $75,000 that we're not using to buy this property down here for parking lot trail. And with the interest we're getting on our CDs, we can do this without cutting into the town's principal for 1 year. We can do this. And like Alicia says, $60 may not be a lot to some people, but to some people, maybe as well be $6,000.
Mr. Menace, this is the budget. I want to make this clean. You got a substitute motion. We've had discussion on both. When the council's ready, call for a vote on the substitute motion,
You know that.
then we'll go ahead.
Right, you know that. All right, I am straight on that. Okay. Well, I'll just say that we look at the county level, and my concern is my county tax, because it's, 10 times, 20 times more than my Summerfield tax. These folks down there went on a firing and get rid of the employees spree, and then turn around and start throwing buckets of money out of the courthouse, giving it to organizations that didn't even ask for money. So, my problem is with them, not us. I think we pretty much.
With all due respect, Mr. Mayor, we don't have any control over the county budget, but we do have control over what happens here.
I agree. Those that agree with that. Those that agree with that. Okay, any other discussion?
Well, my only question, if we choose to vote for the substitute motion with the 0 tax, my concern is from Dana, because I had kind of talked to you about this earlier, and we hadn't really thought about that. What will that do next time when our budget comes up? It will cost us $130-something for the sales tax revenue that we would not be getting.
Yes, this,
And we would have to budget an amount out of our funds.
depends on what budget comes forward. We may or may not need to, depending on the amount of the budget and the expenditures in the budget. The current budget, you would continue to get sales tax, And if you voted for zero, no property tax, and then the next year's budget would be whatever your property tax decision was, and no sales tax.
Then there would be some residual
That's
sales
right.
property tax from folks that hadn't paid.
For the
for
motor
years,
vehicles.
And then motor vehicles, so there would be some residual of a couple thousand.
Yeah, and we did actually show that in those projections.
And one of the other things that I had just remembered from past budget discussions that we had talked about was the consistency that's really nice, where you can look back and you can get a projection of what we've done. And I don't know what this would possibly do to that as far as in the future, looking back on this year, we just have to kind of throw this one out because it would just be something that would not be really helpful.
Well, in order to compare apples to apples, we'd have to adjust any projections we did just to make sure we were looking at two equal years. So you would want to either take the numbers out altogether or put the numbers into both of them just to compare apples to apples. Just because you don't want a roller coaster ride in your numbers when you're looking at projections, so you would just adjust for that, looking at your projections.
Yeah. Well, it just seems like a novel idea to do with something neat, and the more I think about it, the more I don't know that this is what is really going to be something that will be a good thing for the town in the future. And the gloom and doom and things that's being stated by the people who want it, to me, are things that we should be doing is looking in the future to see what we might need the money for in the future. And the unknowns, to me, are not gloom and doom, but they're just reality. So, I mean, I just think we're playing with words when we're talking about these things. And it's fine, whatever you want to call them. Words mean things to different people. And I'm sure that somebody with no money that's really having problems would love to have a tax holiday for everything. And I'm sure they're probably waiting for their stimulus funds that are coming, you know, that have been promised by whatever. And you know, that unfortunately may not be a reality, but we don't have any control over that. So while I think it sounds wonderful when we're talking about doing it one time, my concern is just that I don't feel that I would be doing my job as a member of the council if I didn't look and try to do this in a planned and logical manner. So that's probably how I'll be voting tonight.
So what you're saying is that to not have a tax for 1 year is illogical?
I don't know. I see that.
Well,
I
if
thought-
we don't do it in a planned and logical manner, so you're saying this is illogical? Well, that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I think it sounded like a novel idea when you first said it, and I tried to do what you asked and considered it. But I think that the fact that no one else is doing it, you know, it is probably a reason for that, because my problem is if you do it this year and you don't do it next year, people are gonna say, well, why don't you do it again? Although it's a holiday, so, you know, you could do whatever. I just think that we need to go ahead and continue on with what we have. I don't see I don't see that it's gonna be that much of a value to do. You tell me why we can do it and what value it will do for Summerfield in the future. What is your suggestion?
You know, I don't know what it's going to do for Summerfield 10 years from now. Neither one of us may not be, we may not be here 10 years from now. I don't see that it's going to be detrimental. The manager says it will have no long-term impact on the fiscal health of the town. Just because other people aren't doing it doesn't mean that it's not a good thing. Why can't we do it and maybe other people will?
Okay, Michael, would you mind just reiterating the fact that you said that you thought that we could do this, is this something you suggested? And I don't mean to pull you into it or not, you think it would be no problem for us to do it?
As I've made clear, this is a policy decision of council.